The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show on the Belly Up Sports Network. And we are in episode 2 of the 2025 fantasy football season right here for you. We've got a great show lined up for you, and, well, we can't do it without some expert help. So I'm not the expert. I'm Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove Football Show, back with you again today. And I'm joined by two wonderful fantasy football advisors. We'll start off with the man, we call him Belly Up's Terry Bradshaw. Really wasn't that good, but since he's the old guy, we got to give him some respect. No, I'm just kidding. Kevin Wilson's with us again. Hey, Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Vince, and I'm not recommending that anybody eat bark, okay, on this particular episode.
Gotcha.
So I'll bring down the power, but I'll leave the bark on the tree. How about that?
I like it. And our other expert, he is slightly younger than me and Kevin, but that doesn't make him any less valuable. He's the one and only Brian Germinaro. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great, boys. Ready to talk some wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got plenty of things to talk about. We're going to be talking wide receiver studs and duds. We've got some NFL news, plenty of NFL news to cover this week. We've got drops, we've got signings, we've got guys who should be retired that are not retired. We got all kinds of things happening. Then we're talking, looking at some different running backs that we're going to let you choose between, and then we'll wrap it all up with some running back tiers as well. So let's jump into our opening segment. We call it the lead block. All right, the lead block today, we're looking at Dynasty wide receiver studs and duds. If you missed last week's episode, we looked at some rookie running backs that the guys thought would be studs this year and some duds this year. Not talking about the projecting way out, but talking specifically about this season. We're going to do the same thing with wide receivers, looking for studs and duds, rookies that we think will have an impact in 2025. And we're going to start things off with Kevin. Why don't you throw us a stud on your side of things?
Okay, so the stud, you're going to like this, Vince, because the first stud I'm going to go with is Matthew Golden of your Green Bay Packers. Okay, so the reason why I say that is because he's going to be the third wide receiver at worst on the Green Bay Packers. I think he's going to be even higher than that. And if the Packers play some 3 wide receiver sets, which I see them doing, he's going to be on the field a lot.
Yeah.
And so ahead of him, he's got Romeo Doubs, 46 catches. Then he's got Christian Watson, 29 catches, and is never healthy. And then he has averaged 9 TDs per year. So I like what he can do. I like his build. I like his speed. And so I think he's going to really put together a great season. And he's got a quarterback that can play. And so you add all that together, Matthew Golden is going to be a stud this year to me.
I like it, Kevin. You know, once we get into our redraft talk, I want to come back to the Packer receivers for sure, because Reed, I think, is going to be really good.
Right. Jay Reed is the number one, of course, but after him, it's wide open.
I like Dobbs a lot. He's got good chemistry with Love, but something's got to give with those Packer wide receivers, because they drafted 2 of them this year as well. So something's got to give somewhere at some point in time. We'll see where it shakes down. I will say this, though. If you go back and listen to the Big 12 preview that we did on my show, the Sports Stove Football Show, we had a Houston running back on, Rashawn Sanford. And my dad could not help but ask him, because he was teammates with who did you just say? Matthew Golden was teammates with Golden for 1 season in Houston. And my dad, I brought him on to ask these questions about Rashawn Sanford, this great season he's going to have. And Dad's question was, can you tell me about Matthew Golden? What do the Packers have with Matthew Golden? So we got some inside scoop on Matthew Golden on the show last week as well. But I like that one a lot, Kevin. Brian, thoughts on Golden, and then you can give us a stud as well.
Kev, great mind thinks alike, because Golden was one of my studs too. I love what he's going to do for the Packers. You know, last season, Love and Jalen Reed had a really big connection. I think like one of the best in terms of like quarterbacks throwing to one receiver. So that's going to be a big game plan for defenses coming next year. I think it's going to leave Golden not forgotten, but more open, kind of have less coverage on him because they're going to try to take away Love's comfort with Reed. And with his explosive ability, he's going to get a lot of touchdowns and a lot of big plays. For me, I really love Jack Beck of the Oakland Raiders. They should be in Oakland. The Vegas Raiders.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll buy it for $100, Alex. Go ahead.
So he's really impressed in OTAs so far. And the Raiders receiving room, it's not the greatest. You know, they have Brock Bowers, who's going to be the number one receiving target, but he, of course, is a tight end. Jacoby Myers, I like him a lot, but I wouldn't consider him a number one wide receiver. You know, Beck's coming off an 1,000-yard season last year at 62 receptions. We'll have a lot more one-on-one coverage on him, and he's versatile enough we can play in the slot or play outside. So he's going to get different looks and different routes and get open a lot more than people are going to realize. So I think Beck's going to really surprise people this year.
Yeah, Beck's in a situation to succeed, to say the least, because of the opportunity that's in front of him with the lack of elite talent around him outside of Bowers, of course, there as well. And we'll say this, if you're watching live, we're on the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page, the Belly Up Sports Twitter account. If you're watching live, feel free to comment your wide receiver studs and duds this year. We're talking specifically rookies in this segment right now, but if you think you got someone who's a stud, throw it in the comments, and we can comment on that as well. Kevin, your thoughts on Jack Beck over there with the Las Vegas Raiders?
Well, you know that the quarterback they have just happened to come down from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as he can keep from throwing those red zone interceptions, they had nothing at quarterback, but they do now. And so their wide receiver room is suspect. And so I think he could step right in there and at least compete for their number one wide receiver spot. And I like him. I was looking at him, but I decided eventually not to discuss him, but I like him a lot. So I think there's going to be big things ahead for him, not only this season, but going forward as well.
All right. Very nice. All right, Kevin, who's your second stud today?
So my second stud is, and this is a great name, Jalen Royals. I'm going to go with him for the Kansas City Chiefs. And because, of course, he's got a quarterback that's maybe the best out there. You know, that's a discussion for another day, perhaps. But in their wide receiver room has been completely non-distinct, especially when you got Rice, who has been having injuries and maybe still have legal issues ahead of him. And so ahead of him, he has Hollywood Brown. Well, how many receptions did he have? 9. Okay. And he's got Juju Smith-Schuster. Nobody's really quaking their boots over this guy. He had 18 catches a year ago. And I think that he's going to step in there and be on the field a lot. He's going to put Hollywood, go west, young man, because I'm taking over. And if you have Patrick, Mahomes throwing to you, that's a big boost for anybody. And I think he's going to be one of their starting wide receivers because there's just nobody in that room that stands out to me. And I think he's going to step in there and do some great things this year.
So I may be one of the only people not in on Jalen Royals this year, or really even long term, although that I'm not ready to go there just yet on the long term stuff because it is Mahomes, it is Andy Reid, it is the Chiefs offense. I think Xavier Worthy's in for a massive year this year, a huge step forward, which obviously there's still room for Royals within that. I don't know. For me, I've had a hard time with Royals being elite, especially as a rookie. It scares me. I'm at this point, I'm staying away from Royals. That's just my thoughts, though. Brian, what are your thoughts on Jalen Royals?
I like Royals. Especially teaming up with the best quarterback in football right now, and Patrick Mahomes. Like that should only elevate his ceiling and his production. Even if Worthy does take that massive step forward, he's still gonna get a lot of looks and a lot of receptions. And like you said, we don't know with Rice. Hollywood Brown is kind of a question mark. Royals can really. It's kind of similar where with Beck is he has an opportunity, and plus Travis Kelce is on the decline, so he's not going to be the receiving threat he once was. That could be another way for Royals to get more receptions.
That's a great point too. I just, for whatever reason, I haven't been able to get on that train just yet. And like I said, the other guys that have put out rankings, I'm the only one that's not on that train. So I more than likely am wrong on this.
I got a seat right here for you, Vince, if you want to go ahead and step on board. Okay.
I'm gonna hold off for now. See if maybe the tickets get a little cheaper, and then I'll go from there. Brian, I know he's still golden from you. Do you have another stud you want to bring up?
Not off the top of my head, I do like Terry McMillan. I know it's a little chalky, but I really love this pairing with Bryce Young. I think this is going to elevate both their games. If Bryce Young finally has that tall receiver to throw to, those 50-50 balls are going to come down because he's going to be physical, jump up and get them. That is kind of what every young quarterback needs. Like, I remember when Daniel Jones was with the Giants, Kenny Golladay, we all know how that didn't work out for the Giants, but the thought was he'd come in here, kind of be the, tall receiver that you need to help develop. So I think that's what's going to happen in Carolina, and both are in for a big season.
I don't know that is chalk, Brian, because a lot of people, me included, thought it was a reach at 8. Now we hear rumors that other teams considered coming up to that spot. And, and again, I could be wrong, and I don't have a problem being wrong about this one. If T-Mac's great, I think that's good for everybody. I don't want Carolina to struggle. I'd like to see Bryce Young succeed, all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't file it under chalk because I think there's a lot of controversy around the Panthers as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So what are they going to give us fantasy-wise? Xavier Legette was okay fantasy-wise, not great. Bryce Young obviously wasn't great. Running back situation there, not awesome. All that kind of stuff. So I think it's a good pick, and I think it's a good stand. Even though he was wide receiver 1 in the draft this year, he didn't go to a situation that makes you go, all right, this is going to be awesome. So we're going to continue to have that conversation throughout the season, of course, as well. All right, Brian, we'll let you start us off with duds. Who's a dud that you have this year?
This one might be a surprise, but I have Mbika Ebuka. I think that's how you say his name. The Ohio State kid. A lot of people are kind of high on him because of the Chris Godwin injury and Mike Evans not, his age. Listen, Mike Evans is one of the most consistent receivers in the league. Chris Godwin is a question mark if he's going to miss time. He could play. And then we kind of are overlooking Jalen McMillan, who had caught 8 touchdowns last year. Like, if you don't think that Baker's going to get him the ball, I don't think so. I think 8 touchdowns shows he has some sort of connection. It's a crowded room. You have Kate Otten to a tight end, and you have Bucky Irving at running back. So I just don't see where the volume is going to come in year 1 from Mbika. I think over the next few seasons, as Godwin may leave for agency, as Evans might get a little older, that's where the volume comes in. But for this season, I'm just not seeing it.
I like that take, Brian. Egbuka was my wide receiver 1 in the draft. He was the one I had ranked above everybody else. Super high on him. I like the situation for him long term. I think, like you said, him and McMillan as a pairing for the next 3-4 years is going to be awesome to watch. It's going to be what we saw in the heyday of Evans and Godwin.
Yeah,
it's just going to carry right on through. But that volume this year is a massive question mark, and I really like McMillan. Now, fantasy, I stay away from Packers receivers in fantasy because you don't know which one's going to get it. And this year, I might be doing the same thing with the Bucs a little bit because it's like, okay, until we can figure out who's going to get the ball, it scares me a little bit in Tampa for sure. Kevin, thoughts on Egbuka in his rookie season?
Because everything I've read, if people are acting like this is, he's going to be the second coming.
Yeah.
And so I just can't get with that. So I'm with you, Brian, on that one. And a crowded wide receiver room, especially if everybody's healthy. And Baker Mayfield, we like him a lot, but where's the chemistry? We don't know that yet. And so maybe long term we can discuss that. But for this year, I was just like, well, I'm not going to put him down as a stud, that's for sure. And he may not be a dud per se, but I'm just not ready to buy in that he's going to have a great season because he's going to have to show me. He's going to have to beat all these guys out, all 8 of them, or whatever the number is. So Yeah, so I'm with you on that one, Brian. I'm not ready to buy in on him at all.
And to clarify for the listeners, when we're talking duds, we're not talking dreaded horrible. What we're saying is value-wise. These guys are going to be valued high. They're going to get drafted high more than likely. And then you're going to be sitting there going, well, for what I got him at, he didn't perform the way we thought he was going to perform at that value. That's what we mean by duds. I don't think Brian is saying Egbuka is going to be nothing this year.
No.
It's just fantasy-wise and the value of it all. That's kind of where we're looking at duds at, and studs to some degree as well.
Right.
All right, Kevin, who do you have as a dud?
So I have as a dud, unfortunately for me, he plays for the Seattle Seahawks, or he will. And so I'm talking about Torrey Horton. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like the Seattle Seahawks, of course, but he's going to have to beat out Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's going to have to beat out Cooper Kupp, who a lot of people are poo-pooing that signing. I think it's going to work out great, at least for this year. And so he's going to struggle to get targets. He's going to struggle to get receptions. And he's going to struggle to even be on the field a lot, to me. And he's going to have to show Sam Darnold, who's he going to have any kind of chemistry with? We don't know that yet. So I know he was one of those guys that was drafted a little bit later, but I've seen some positive sayings about him, but I'm not ready. I wish I was, because if he stepped in there and that could form a 3 wide receiver, like they've had in the past, that would be great. But I'm not ready to buy in just yet on Torrey Horton being any kind of a stud guy this year.
Okay, 5th round pick out of Colorado State. Brian, I want to get your thoughts before I share mine on Torrey Horton.
I really liked Torrey Horton coming out of college. I liked him. I thought he was one of the steals of the draft. I like what the Seahawks did entirely, but I do see what Kevin's saying. Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp are going to demand a lot of those targets. Plus, we don't know how Sam Darnold's going to perform. Which Sam Darnold are we going to get? Or we get the Sam Darnold we saw in the first half of the season, or is it going to be the Sam Darnold that was seeing ghosts at MetLife Stadium? That's going to come into play of how he plays. So I think long-term, Horton's going to be kind of a steal when we look back on it. But for this season, I can understand not, giving him the opportunity.
So I have Torrey Horton ranked above Jalen Royals and Kyle Williams. I am super high on Torrey Horton. I think the third receiver that we're talking about here is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And as a Packer fan, I can tell you he's going to make maybe 2 massive plays all season and then 17 drops in between those 2 massive plays. And I think Torrey Horton's got a great opportunity to get a lot of snaps this year as a rookie. And being that Smith-Njigba is going to be the focal point of the defense, just like we were talking about earlier with other guys, maybe that Matthew Golden, the focus not being on him. Same thing's going to be true with Torrey Horton. Great college career at Colorado State, kind of under the radar just because it's Colorado State. But 6'2", 190, I believe it is. So he's not massive, but he's my sleeper pick out of these rookie receivers. I love Torrey Horton. So I'm gonna, as they would say in Vegas, Riverside this or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm going on the other side of you there, Kevin.
Okay, well, I hope you're correct, Vince.
I'm sure you do.
Because this is my team.
Yeah.
And it would help out tremendously if he goes on there and catches 70 passes.
Yeah.
And,
it's a win-win for Kevin.
But I'm just not ready to buy in just yet on this offensive team because they're rebuilding the entire offense, and they're going to have to show me what kind of offense they're going to – they've got 2 great running backs back there, so – the whole team is going to have to show exactly what kind of offense we're going to run here before I'm ready to dive in on him.
All right. Very good. All right, Brian, have you given us any duds yet?
Yeah, I gave
one more dud.
I got Kyle Williams of the New England Patriots. I know it's kind of crazy. The Patriots wide receiver room is not the best, but they do have a lot of interesting pieces. They have Stephon Diggs. They have Demario Douglas, who I liked a lot. My friend who's a big Patriots fan loves him, thinks he could be a really talented receiver in this league. The red zone opportunities aren't going to be there because that's kind of where Hunter Henry kind of shines. And plus with the good 1-2 punch they have at running back and Henderson being that receiving back, I just don't see how Williams gets volume. And plus, we know how Patriots receivers kind of do in their rookie season. They kind of fall flat in their face. Look at Polk this past season. kind of drafted in a similar spot. So I don't think Williams. I saw him as kind of a guy you might take a flyer on in like a later round of your dynasty leagues. I would just stay away entirely.
I agree. I mean, he didn't make my top 30 when we did our rookies. He did make each of y'all's top 30s, but DJ was the highest on him. He had him at ranked 13 overall. And I just couldn't do it.
No,
I just couldn't do it. And I listen. I think New England's on the rise. I don't think they're a playoff team this year, but I think they're on the rise. I don't think Kyle Williams is the reason they're on the rise. And so I agree with you 100%, Brian. Kevin, thoughts on Williams?
We're going to have to see, once again, what kind of offense does New England run over there. And I think that they're going to revamp. We've already talked about their running back room. That's going to revamp, I think. And we're going to have to see what Drake May, how is he going to progress? I think he's going to be fine. He's going to have a much better year this year, but it's not because of a certain rookie wide receiver. It's not going to be because of that. So I'm not ready to buy in on him either.
All right. Very good. Very good. That's your studs and duds this week. Talking wide receivers, and I'm excited to see. We're going to continue to look at different studs and duds each and every week here on the Belly Up Fantasy Life Football Show as well. All right, let's head into segment number 2. We call it the Cover 2. All right, on the Cover 2, we like to talk about NFL news, things going on, and boy, howdy, we got some news this week. We got a few things to look at. Let's start with Nick Chubb, signs with the Texans at practice today. Now you got 2 solid veterans down there in Houston. Joe Mixon, of course, there already. Nick Chubb comes in, coming off the injury. You're just not going to get me to say a bad thing about Nick Chubb. And I love the signing for Houston. I think it's good. It gives them that depth. It gives them, gives him time. He doesn't have to rush or anything like that as well, having Mixon as the lead back there. And that's not the only person they have as well. So I like the signing, guys. I'm interested to get your thoughts on it, though. Brian, why don't you lead us off?
I love this signing. I think it's perfect for both parties involved because it gives the Texans and arguably a top 10, 15 running back duo with Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. I know Nick Chubb is coming off that brutal knee injury, and he kind of, wasn't the running back we're used to seeing last year, but we all remember what happened on that fateful night in Pittsburgh. That was a brutal injury, and it takes a lot more than just a year and a half to come back from. That's, a year, 2 years. I don't care how much practice and rehab you do. Until you're on the NFL field, you don't know how your body's going to or your knee's going to react when a play happens. So I think the trial run in Cleveland this year, kind of getting his feet wet again. Now that he has Joe Mixon, they won't have all the pressure. I think he can calm down. The only thing that concerns me is the offensive line and just getting those gaps. But other than that, I think this is a great move for Houston.
Kevin, thoughts on Chubb to the Texans?
Well, because you said 2 solid. I think solid is a little strong of a word here for him. All right, because he hasn't been healthy. And those that happen to have Joe Mixon on your dynasty team, don't start fretting just yet. We're talking about a guy who had 1,300 yards from scrimmage last year and 12 TDs.
Yeah.
So if you've got him on your team, don't be looking to bail out and sell him off just yet. I think that he passed his physical, of course, or they wouldn't have signed him. But he's only played 10 games over the last 2 years.
Sure.
Okay, and one of them was a really bad injury. He came back last year and averaged 3.3 yards per carry. That's not good. And I think you can step in there and maybe and kind of do the duo with Mixon.
Yeah.
But I think Mixon is going to still be the number 1 running back down there.
Oh yeah.
And so and Houston, I think they're going to get back to the more of the passing offense that we've seen from them. Stroud's going to be a much better quarterback this year. And so the running back game may not be what they're focusing on. And so I hope it works out. He is a guy that can just mow people over, and we'll see what happens. But solid, I'm not ready to buy in and saying that he is a solid player at this point in his career.
I will say I think Houston has had one of the sneakiest I don't know how to say this grammatically correct, sneakiously good off seasons, which I wouldn't have thought at first, just because you think of what they lost this off season, especially on the offensive line. But in the draft, they go out and get 2 receivers. We talked about them last week, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Then they also went out and signed Christian Kirk and got him over he was in Jacksonville last year as well. Bring him in, not a bad signing. Then on the offensive line, they bring in Cam Robinson, who played in Minnesota last season. They bring in Laken Tomlinson, who played in Seattle last year. They bring in Jake Andrews from the Patriots. They bring in Ed Ingram from Minnesota. That's a give or take on that one. And they bring in Trent Brown, the tackle that was at Cincinnati. They still have guys like Titus Howard, Blake Fisher, first-round pick, second-round pick in different seasons as well. So, and they drafted Ariante Irsay, one of my favorite draft picks in the second round. So when you look at what they've done, are they better on the offensive line than last year? I'm not quite sure yet, but they're not as bad as maybe we thought they were based off of what they lost this year as well. And so I'm intrigued to see what they do. By the way, defensively, they bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson as well this offseason. Sheldon Rankins comes in this offseason as well. And I think the Texans, that division's not great. But if nothing else, adding Nick Chubb to the locker room, adding his work ethic, his mindset, it's going to fit what they're doing on the staff. It's only going to be a help to them. Dameon Pierce still may be running back 2 to start the season. Who knows? But I like it. I like it overall.
If he's the number 2 running back, that's not working. Let me just say that.
You running back?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? If Chubb's the number 2 running back?
No, I'm saying if Dameon Pierce is the number 2 running back, there's a problem here.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
a big problem with Chubb or Mixon if Pierce is RB2.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
All right. Fair enough. All right, let's go on to Aaron Rodgers. We spoke briefly about this last week, but it is official now. He's there as expected. He's in Pittsburgh. Me and Dad talked about this on Thursday, and Dad he has a hard time getting over his bitterness sometimes, and was incredibly negative, and I understand it and everything like that too. My philosophy is there are very few teams that would work for Aaron Rodgers this year. And Pittsburgh was one of the teams that does work, I think. Just the way their makeup is, the way they're set up, the coaching staff, all that kind of stuff. Not to say it's going to go perfectly, not to say they're going to win the division, not to say they're going to win the Super Bowl. But if it can work, Pittsburgh is one of the few places I think that it can work. And you're looking at a 1-year contract. Everyone knows you're all in for 1 year. You don't have to worry about any of this, what's he going to do next year stuff. It's 1 year. Let's do this, send them out, see how it goes. Kevin, give me your thoughts on overall now that we've had a little bit of time to stew on this Aaron Rodgers signing.
Well, the Steelers backed themselves up into this position. Yeah. Absolutely. And they've been backed in this position for months now. And Aaron Rodgers, he's 41 years old. If I'm the other teams in this division, I am absolutely blitzing him until he can't see straight. And I don't think this is going to – let's say he does play well. What's the Steelers' maximum overall win? 10 wins is the maximum for them. I'd say more probably 9 and 8. And let's say that gets them in the playoffs. Do we actually believe that the Steelers are going to threaten anyone? And so they'll lose in the first round just like they do every single year, and they're right back in the position that they are right now. And they won't, like you said, this is a 1 year. He'll be 42 next year. So now what are they going to do next year? Because they won't have a high enough draft pick to get a quarterback that's worth anything. And I am not – Aaron Rodgers, let's face it. Let's take out the injury year. Let's take that out. He wasn't that great when he was last in Green Bay.
Right.
He wasn't great last year. Why would anyone expect that all of a sudden the fairy's going to come down and sprinkle dust all over him and he's going to turn into a guy that's going to throw for 30 touchdowns? It's not going to happen.
Kevin, he's a new man. He got married, supposedly.
And he ate barf, apparently, too. So
supposedly he got married. Supposedly, he's smoking the good stuff. I mean, you just don't know how healthy he is right now. And you ask, what are the Steelers going to do next year when they don't have a great draft pick? I'm sure Derek Carr will be healthy by then. So it'll all be okay.
Stop that. Okay. Stop. Just stop that.
All right, Brian, give me your thoughts on Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
We were talking about it on the 3rd and 10 show today, and Kev, you took the words right out of my mouth. I said the same thing. Like, this is a move the Steelers had to make, but it doesn't move the needle. All it does is move their win total from like maybe 6 or 7 games to more like 8 to 10 games. And, probably not good enough to make a playoff spot. But even if they did, they'll go to, Kansas City or Houston and, get the doors blown off, Buffalo. So it's kind of like the Steelers are kind of stuck in just mediocrity right now. And it feels like they just kind of it feels like they're kind of stuck with Tomlin's streak of him constantly going 500. It feels like they just need to bottom out so they can just kind of clean house. Because as long as Tomlin's consistently, a 500 or better coach, it's kind of hard to move on from him. If you just bottom out, it's just easy to clean house. So maybe that is best case scenario for the Steelers is everything just collapses like a house of cards them this year.
All right, I know this is supposed to be for segment 3, but let me give you a few either ors. All right, so we're doing Aaron Rodgers or is what we're doing, and we're just doing rapid fire. So you just give me, we'll go Brian first and then Kevin with each one, all right? So the other options out there, backup quarterbacks that maybe they could have went out and got, right? So Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, because I think he's going to be healthy.
Okay.
And he's better.
Okay.
No question.
Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones?
Is there a third option?
Mason Rudolph.
So
that one. Neither.
Brian is the expert when it comes to the New York Giants, and if he's looking for a third option, that says it all right there.
All
but
right.
I would hazard to say that I would still take Daniel Jones over Aaron Rodgers at this point.
Okay, Aaron Rodgers or Mac Jones?
Mac Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones, just because he's younger, and that's all.
I think he got a raw deal in New England too.
He did. It seems like all the quarterbacks up there get raw deals in New England after Brady.
A good rookie year. Then they gave him Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. Like, what are you doing?
All right, we'll leave it at that one. Oh, let's do one more. Aaron Rodgers or Will Levis?
Ooh. Oh, please.
Will Levis, yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely hit the tree that we just hit was rather large, and our car is destroyed right now. So
I would take Mac Jones over Rodgers. I think on the other ones, I'd still lean with Rodgers for 1 year, not for long term, of course, but for 1 year, I would take Rodgers over the other guys because the one thing Rodgers can do best is when he's got a chip on his shoulder, and right now everyone is against him. And
he's not helped his case with that.
He's got to.
Everybody's against him because that's the surly way that he comes across. Yes. I'm surprised.
I'm not arguing
he's got a personal life at all. Why would anyone want to be around this guy?
Yeah,
he likes to be in dark closets. What are you talking about? He sounds like a great guy.
But I will say this. If he passes all his drug tests. Because you cannot tell me that there's not been a time that he's been on some performance enhancers, things just to help him get healthy. And that could be why he's waited so long to sign, is to get all that out of his system and make sure he can clear any tests and stuff like that. I don't know how that works. I don't know how they test him when he's not signed with somebody. I'm not sure how that works. So I could be way off on that. But he's at that age now where he's trying to get one more good season to go out on a high note, and he's going to do everything he can to get there. So we'll see. All right. Jair Alexander gets released by the Packers. Really no offers came in for him. He had some incredible years, hasn't been healthy as of late. So I'm kind of the guy that says, take a shot on these guys. I'm a Packer fan, so I'm not against them releasing him. I really wish they could have got something out of him, but the locker room, he was a mess. He was horrible in the locker room in Green Bay, causing all kinds of problems. And so I understand why they released him. My question, though, is who should go out and get Jair Alexander?
I thought Buffalo was the first team that came to mind. I know they got Maxwell, the kid from Kentucky, with the first round pick. But when you're going up against like Burrow and Mahomes, they're trying to get over that hump. I want as many solid corners as possible. We don't know what Maxwell's going to be. At least we know what Alexander is on the field. So I would definitely take a flyer if I'm Buffalo.
I like it. Kevin?
Okay, so My first team that comes to mind is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Because Jalen Ramsey is on the trade block.
Yep.
And so if they make this trade, who in the world do they have in their defensive backfield? So he goes to the top of the list. If that doesn't work, the NFC rival Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, geez.
Okay. I'll just say that and leave it alone. Okay. Because he can come over there and help them, because they're rivals, and he can, maybe give some inside scoop on the Packers or whatever it is. But that'd be about it for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had one more thing we were going to discuss. It's not crucial and time efficient. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We'll come back to that topic on veteran quarterbacks mentoring or not. We'll come back to that another week. But that's segment 2, the cover 2 NFL news. Lots of good stuff going on in the NFL right now. We'll continue to cover it each and every week in our second segment. Now it's time to go to segment number 3, the read option. Our read option segment is presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP. You're going to get 15% off your purchase, and I promise you will not regret a purchase from Righteous Felon Jerky. It quickly became my favorite beef jerky. The way that it just bites right off, the flavors that come with it, the kick on the hot ones, the sweetness of the sweet ones, it's just wonderful. So righteousfelon.com. Code BELLYUP. My favorite is the bootleg and barbecue. And so that's the one I highly suggest you trying out. All right. In segment 3, the read option, we're looking at what we just did basically with the Aaron Rodgers thing. And we're looking at some running backs, rookie running backs. And speaking on the realm of Dynasty. So we're looking a little bit into the future on this one as well as a little bit to this year. We can comment either one. So let's start things off with the former college teammates. And Kevin, we'll start with you on this one. Travion Henderson with the Patriots or Quinshawn Judkins with the Browns. Former Ohio State running backs. We're all really high on both of these guys. So when you're lining up your draft board, which one are you taking first?
Well, I'm taking Henderson first because the Patriots, they've redone their offensive line. They took Will Campbell right out of the way early on. And as we talked about last week, who does he have to beat out? Stevenson. And I'm completely out on him. And so I figure he could step in there and do some things. And I was reading that some people have Henderson ranked right now as the 3rd leading offensive rookie of the year candidate. I'm not sure if I'm ready to buy in quite on that high just yet. They've got McMillan and Ward over him. And so I think he's going to have he's going to come in there. He's going to take over the number 1 running back spot. And I like him. And the other guy is Cleveland. And so I'm not buying in. Sorry, Dale, if you're watching this, but Cleveland, I'm not ready to buy in on what they're doing over there. So I'm going with Mr. Henderson right here.
All right, Brian. Travion Henderson or Quinshawn Judkins?
I'm actually going to go with Henderson. So it's kind of funny that both these running backs landed in similar situations where, they have a veteran presence there who has been solid, but has kind of fallen out of favor for one reason or another with the current coaching staff. So they both have easy tracks to be RB1 by midseason, be that bell cow. What separates them for me is the receiving aspect. Henderson has a big advantage there. He had 853 total receiving yards in college. Judkins had 442. Plus with Drake May and how McDaniels is able to get the most out of receiving backs in offense, I'm leaning towards Henderson because I think will make the bigger impact.
Can I give you guys one argument for Quinshawn Judkins?
Yeah.
I think that the Browns are actually better set up for early success than the Patriots. And I do think that given time, Vrabel will right the ship there in New England. The one thing that scares me about Cleveland is the quarterback situation. We have no idea which of the 4 quarterbacks is going to be running the ship there.
More like 74.
But last year, the Browns ran for over 1,600 yards. And I think they got better this offseason overall as a team. So I think Judkins is going to jump right in and fit right in immediately in Cleveland. If they don't get the quarterback thing situated, then Henderson's in a safer spot. If they do get the quarterback thing, whether it's one of the rookies, whether Pickett all of a sudden plays like a first-round quarterback, which I don't think we're anticipating, or whether Joe Flacco is elite still, we will see. I really like Judkins. To me, this is the hardest one of all of them, just because I think they're both really good. And so I won't say that you guys are wrong in picking Henderson. I think I slightly lean towards Judkins, but to me, it's super, super close. All right, let's talk about a running back that we dogged last week, and then one we didn't talk about last week, and that is Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh or Devin Neal in New Orleans. I picked these guys because I feel like their situations are somewhat similar to a degree. They're different in ways for sure as well. But, Brian, give me your thoughts. Caleb Johnson or Devin Neal?
So I'm going to lean towards Caleb Johnson. I think Caleb Johnson has an easier path to the field because Neal is buried behind Alvin Kamara and Kendra Miller, who the Saints drafted with the third-round pick last year. Like, that is still, I know it's not third-round picks kind of middle of the road, but for a running back, that's kind of higher to take him. So there has to be some talent there. He, I think, is going to get looked before Neal will. Johnson just has to beat out Warren, which, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a lot easier than, jumping up 3 spots. And plus with Aaron Rodgers being, close to, almost 42 years old, they're going to be looking to running the ball a little bit more. So give me Caleb Johnson.
All right. Kevin, your thoughts?
Well, that absolutely mirrors what I was thinking going into this. I don't like the situations for either of these guys. But Brian, you said Johnson's got a much clearer path to start, and New Orleans is not going to bench Kamara. They got too much money invested in him, and Miller is a guy who's still young, and that's a lot of guys to have to climb over. Plus, they don't have a quarterback down there just yet. So I don't like the New Orleans offense whatsoever. And so based on, we got to pick somebody. It's Johnson. Although I'm not, got any flags where I'm going, woohoo, Mr. Johnson. But in this situation, he's clearly the better option here.
All right, so maybe this pairing wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I do agree with you guys overall. You talked about Miller being a third-round pick. Alvin Kamara was a third-round pick. So, it tells you everything you need to know. Now, obviously, brand new coaching staff there in New Orleans. Interesting to see what they do. Obviously, in last year, Kellen Moore had a great running game in Philadelphia. And we'll see kind of who wins favor with that staff and what they can do in New Orleans. I still like Neal long-term. He was a 6th-round pick. I understand that, but great college career. And I think you're going to see flashes of him. And I think the one thing I look at with this is Kamara does have injury issues over the years, and he is aging as well. So if he goes down, then you've got Miller and Neal as your 1-2 punch. Neal gets more opportunities in that situation. But I can't argue with you. I like Caleb Johnson. I'm big on him too this year. So I agree with you guys there. All right, last one. We're going to go with an interdivisional matchup here. We talked about Cam Scatterbo a little bit last week. So we're going to do Cam Scatterbo or Jaden Blue, the Dallas Cowboys running back. Brian, start us off with this one.
You know what? You can call me a homer all you want, but I'm going Scatterbo. It's a similar situation to why I picked Johnson over Neal. Dallas does have here. They brought in Williams this offseason. Miles Sanders is there. I know they're aging, but there are, Blues buried on the depth chart. They do have money invested into them, so they want to get them as much work, as much, time as possible to potentially get some sort of value out of them. Whereas Scatterbo is going to be the RB1B day one. Tracy's probably going to get more of the touches. It's going to be like 60-40 split. But Scatterbo is going to be in the games. He is going to be, working with the team. And plus that physicality, like I said last week, he's going to get a lot of red zone opportunities to kind of, pound the ball in, be physical, kind of, goal line situations. He could, wind up with a lot of touchdowns. So give me Scatterbo for that reason.
Kevin?
Okay, so I know I talked last week about how he was one of my running back busts because I really like Tracy. And not to Devin Singletary, I'm not carrying any flags for him, but I think he's going to get carries. But I'm just not ready to buy in on Blue, even though I don't like the two guys that are ahead of him very much. But just based on talent alone, Scatabo is the guy that because Blue was a 5th-round pick, okay? There's a reason why he was a 5th-round pick. And I think they're going to probably try and do everything they can to get him as a starter in Dallas. But who knows what's going off their offensive line. And I think they're going to want to establish the pass. And so I'm not ready to buy in on him whatsoever. So Scatabo is the guy that I'm going to go with, even though last week I said he was going to be a bust. But he's going to be much less of a bust than anything that Blue is doing in Dallas.
All right, let me do this real quick. Let's do a 10-second answer, okay? Cam Scatabo or Caleb Johnson? I'm going to mix the pairings up a little bit. Cam Scatabo or Caleb Johnson? Kevin, 10 seconds.
Johnson.
That was very quick. I like that, Kevin. All right, Brian. I was trying to give you a little time to think about this one.
I think work. Johnson. I lean okay. Johnson.
All right. So then let's go the other direction now. Devin Neal or Jaden Blue? Both of these guys, 5th-round draft picks. Both of them good college careers. Both of them have some depth chart issues they're going to have to work through with the teams that they're on. So Devin Neal, New Orleans, Jaden Blue in Dallas. We'll start with you, Brian.
Give me Jaden Blue because the two guys ahead of him are more aging, whereas Neal has to deal with Miller.
Okay. Kevin?
I agree with you, Brian. And not only are they aging, they're not as good as the guys that are ahead in New Orleans. So Blue.
Okay. And then we might come back to this Dallas running back conversation at some point because Javonte Williams, I like. Miles Sanders has done some good things. And then you got the rookie in Jaden Blue as well. So we're probably going to revisit this conversation at some point in the preseason coverage that we do as well. All right, that's segment 3. It's the read option presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Let's head into our final segment of the evening. It's the Red Zone. All right, for the Red Zone, we're talking dynasty running backs. And I know we've talked a lot about them the last week as well. In our first segment, we brought up some things and our studs and duds. We talked about them a little bit today in some of these comparisons of different things like that. But when we're talking about dynasty, not just rookies, but dynasty running backs and kind of those tier systems for dynasty running backs, I think it gets interesting because you've got some older guys that are really, really good. And you've got some guys that are like on that verge of becoming older guys that are really, really good. And then you got these rookies coming up too. And I'm intrigued to see kind of where we land on some of these things. So let's talk about tier 1. Kevin, who do you got in tier 1 of your
So in tier 1, I've got Robinson, Gibbs, and Barkley.
Okay. So Robinson and Gibbs, obviously young studs, no question about it. I want us to take a second to talk about, well, Brian, is Barkley in your tier 1?
Barkley is in my tier 1, yes.
Okay, let's talk about Barkley for a second. Because when I think about Saquon Barkley, first of all, phenomenal season, MVP level season this past year. As a Giants fan, I'm sure that was as painful as it could possibly.
I got some. So when he signed with the Eagles, I have a Saquon jersey. I was in college. We used the jersey as a doormat for the rest of the year, and then at our graduation party, we lit it on fire.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So talk to me though about how much longer is Saquon Barkley going to be in tier 1 of dynasty running back rankings? Because when I start thinking about it, I think, man, he's been through a bunch. He's been hit a lot. He's not like crazy old, but he's not young anymore either. He's that guy I was talking about, like on that verge of being old for a running back. Obviously incredible year. Derrick Henry is another guy you think about it that's aging, but aging very, very well. But talk about Saquon. How much longer do you think he's going to be in that tier, Brian, at that top tier of running backs?
I only think like a season or 2 more. Like I forgot what show he was on, but he said earlier last week that he's going to have a career like Barry Sanders where he retires early. So that, if I'm a dynasty manager, that scares me. I know he's going to be, I don't think he's going to retire like at the end of this season. That's a little crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if by 2028 he hangs him up. So I would give him like a season or two more as an elite, tier 1 dynasty guy.
Kevin, your thoughts on how long Saquon's going to be a tier 1 guy?
Well, I think that he could be a tier 1 guy a little bit more because of the offensive line that the Philadelphia Eagles have.
Okay.
It's better than most other teams. So I think that, and I don't know, he's taken a lot of hits, but that was mostly on the Giants where he did that. And he's a couple of years away from that. So I think that unless he pulls, like you said, a disappearing, now I'm going to retire act, I think he could be in this tier for 3 years.
Okay.
Still.
I like it. All right, Brian, your tier 1 guys, who do you have there?
My tier 1 guys, I have Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Ashton Jeanty, and Jonathan Taylor, just because I like to do 5 for each tier.
I like it. Jonathan Taylor is my favorite out of all of them. And he shouldn't be, because the other guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, they've proven, and they're going to be really, really good. It'll take a long time for me to get off of the Jonathan Taylor bandwagon. And I actually have an autographed jersey of Jonathan Taylor. I don't have it up in the studio yet. But because I felt like I didn't have a Packer hat. I couldn't hang up a Colts jersey without a Packer hat. Although I'm in Wisconsin now, so it makes a little bit more sense to have a Jonathan Taylor jersey. But still, nonetheless, it's not because I have the jersey that I'm a fan. From the day he got drafted, fantasy stuff, I love having Jonathan Taylor on my team. And I'll just beat the drum for Jonathan Taylor over and over and over again. Jeanty in tier 1, before you've seen any snaps from him in the NFL, talk to me about, and I understand, I agree with you, but talk about your reasoning with that.
I mean, this guy had one of the greatest college seasons we've ever seen a running back had. Like, the argument can be made. He dragged the Boise State, they dragged Boise State to the playoffs, or just almost to the playoffs. He was a great running back. 31 touchdowns. I forgot how many yards he had off the top of my head, but this is a guy we've seen in Pete Carroll's offense. Kev, you would know this, how important that running back is, how important Marshawn Lynch was for years for Seattle. I think he's going to have a similar role, kind of be the heartbeat of the offense in Vegas. He's going to do that for years to come. That's why I have him as a tier 1 guy.
Kevin, you had him down in tier 2, leading the way in tier 2 for you. What was your thinking behind holding him into tier 2 this year?
Well, I like him in tier 2, and I've seen him ranked as high as number 2 overall in Dynasty. I think that's just a little inflated for a guy that we have not even seen play yet. I like the situation that he's in. I like the coach that he has. He knows how to run guys. I like that a lot. But to sit there and tell me you're going to take him over guys like Gibbs, that's crazy talk to me. And so if you're taking a rookie draft, he's going number 1. I won't even begin to argue that. But to sit there and say that he's a top tier guy and we haven't even seen him play yet, I'm not ready to buy in on that.
My only concern about Jeanty is Raiders long-term. New coach, but he's old. So how long is he going to be around?
He's the oldest. It's not just old. He's the oldest.
Yes. Geno Smith works. He's serviceable. He works in that offense for sure. Not my favorite quarterback out there, and he's only going to be around for 2 or 3 more years, more than likely. And then, what do they go from there? What happens from there? Those kinds of things too. And, you put them in that division. The Chargers defense is going to continue to get better. The Chiefs are going to put up a bunch of points, so they're going to be throwing the football, which Jeanty will be involved in the pass game, of course, as well. But there's little things that make me kind of scared, I guess, a little bit. But good running backs are good running backs, and they're going to do their part. It's weird. Running backs don't have the same issues that quarterbacks have. When you have a bad offensive line, sure, it doesn't go great. But like we see, David Carr, his career ended because his offensive line stunk. But with running backs,
he got sacked 78 times a year.
Well, but how many times does a running back get tackled?
Yeah,
more than 78 in a year.
Most of the time, the running back at least sees the hit coming. Whereas if you're the quarterback, you're getting hit from behind and every other direction, hit by.
Well, and let's face it, Kevin. Quarterbacks, as much money as they make, they're a little sensitive. And they can't handle it quite like the running backs.
Well, that's why you can't touch a quarterback now without getting the pass, getting the penalty flag thrown on you. So
That's right.
I'm definitely with you on that.
All right, let's go to tier 2 because both of you guys have Devon Achane sitting there in tier number 2 towards the top of your number 2s, tier 2s. And I'm intrigued by that one because I struggle with where to rank Achane because I like him. And he's a good fantasy player. There's something about the Dolphins that I sit there and kind of question too. Like, how long is it going to last down there? Can Tua stay healthy? Are we going to trust Wilson if Tua gets hurt? Tyreek Hill is one day happy and one day not, and all this stuff going on down there in Miami. But Achane has been super consistent as of late. So, Kevin, talk to me about Achane and how much you like him at 23.
Well, I like him a lot because he's a guy that you give him the ball at the 30-yard line, he could take it all the way. We've seen that from him. He's an explosive player. And if he was on anybody else in Miami, we would have him in that tier 1, I think. But, that's something we could argue about, I guess. But I really like his potential. I like his explosiveness. I think as long as Tua stays healthy, I know that's a big question mark, but he's been able to do that a little bit more of late. So I like that. They could have a great offense if their receivers would stay, within their mental capacity to say, all right. And so I like the potential that they have down there.
Yeah.
And so we've seen him do it. I think and he's had some injuries, but I think he's going to leave that behind. I really like him. He's a touchdown guy, and I like touchdown guys.
Yeah.
So I've got him ranked really high.
Brian, you mentioned in your article that he took a step back in yards per attempt, but
which he did.
He picked up more in the passing game. So tell me what you like about Achane.
I mean, I like Achane because he can, do both. Like I said, sure, he took that step back running back, but he made up for it in the passing game, making him more of a complete fantasy player. If you're in PPR league, that helps you with the catches and stuff. Plus, with all the turmoil in Miami, that only could help to have a solid running back like Achane. All right, the offense, Tua's out, or Tyreek Hill is just not having it today. Let's lean on Achane more. That's more volume, more touches, more scoring.
I like it. I want to talk about James Cook too, because let's see, Kevin, you got him at 8, and Brian, you got him at 11 on your list. These were written a little while ago, so maybe these will adjust some, but that doesn't seem like massively far off. But it is kind of in my opinion, a little bit of a separation between the two. James Cook is another guy who's not happy right now with his contract situation in Buffalo. So, Brian, how much does that impact you when it comes to draft day if he still hasn't been able to solidify, his situation there in Buffalo?
It's definitely a concern. I wouldn't say it's like a major concern because we can see how quickly contracts can just kind of come together. But there's always the risk of the holdout and missing games. And if you're, James Cook, you're going to draft him, you're going to want him out there all 17 games. And if he's, missing time for not because of an injury, because he's unhappy, then you're kind of wasting their pick. So that's why I dropped a little bit. Plus, when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, the running game kind of gets overlooked a little bit. Sure, you need a good running back and to be successful, but with Allen, it doesn't really matter.
Kevin, same question to you. And let me add this in. With this holdout going on currently, does it add injury concern to drafting James Cook? They got those little hamstrings that pop up in week 1 or 2 when he signs, but signs a little later than normal. Those kinds of things. Where's your concern level with James Cook and his situation right now?
I have really low concern level with that because nowadays guys don't even play in the preseason to begin with. Yeah. And so as long as he's in camp and he's getting his reps, and I think he'll be fine. And we're talking about a guy, we talked about Achane. This guy knows how to find the end zone, which is kind of strange because they've got a quarterback that mooches carries down there in the red zone. But even though he has that, he still found the end zone. And he's still a young guy. And I think that they'll get everything straightened out. He's going to be on the field. They've got an excellent offense in Buffalo, of course. So all of that, that's why I have him at number 8. Everything you add all in, I would have no issues taking this guy and have him on my team. If I was drafting a little bit later and missed out on some of these other top guys, he can lead my running back room, and I'd be totally fine with it.
All right. Now, one that I take a little personally. Why do you think there are 12 better running backs, fantasy-wise, dynasty reasons, than Josh Jacobs, Kevin Wilson, and 14 better players, Brian Germinaro, than Josh Jacobs when it comes to dynasty running backs after the year he just had? And I would argue he's a top 5 running back in the league right now. And that's just off the top of my head. I hadn't thought very hard about that. I understand some concerns for Josh Jacobs, mainly being they got a whole lot of offensive weapons, but he is still the running back in Green Bay. So I'm just curious as a Packer fan, and I'd be happy to draft him higher than this. So everyone else read these rankings and follow them fully. But talk to me about Josh Jacobs, your thoughts on him, and kind of why you have him at 13, Kevin, and at 15, Brian.
Okay, I'll go. This is Dynasty.
Yeah, it's 27.
Okay, Dynasty. So
you have Chase Brown above him.
And that's the reason why I have him ranked where I do. If this is redraft, that goes right out the window. I think that we've seen it. He's a consistent guy, but he's a little older now. And when's the train going to stop? It could stop any time for him. So that's why I really like him as a running back. I like that offense. But in Dynasty, these other guys, I rank in front of him simply because it's Dynasty.
Okay, Brian, your thoughts?
I just don't like the long-term outlook for him. Look, I think he's a great guy to have for the next season or two, and if you want to build your roster around him, that's great. That's a great strategy. But we know when he's 29, 30, kind of reaching the end of that contract, what running back is he going to be, especially if he's going to be this bell cow back he was last year. He's going to take a lot of hits, and with the weapons that, the volume's going to be gone. That's why I rank him a little lower, just because I don't think the long term is as big as his short term.
Can't argue with you guys. You're allowed to have your opinions. I just got to make sure I stick up for my boy a little bit there.
But you have to.
You have to do that, but these aren't just opinions. These are expert opinions.
That's right. Good point. Good point. Okay, last one I want to hit on real quick. And by the way, you can find these rankings on the bellyupsports.com website. Everything is here. Explanations for everything is here as well. But each of you guys have a Tennessee Titan running back in your rankings, but you have a different Tennessee Titans running back in your rankings. So, Kevin Wilson, you have Tajay Spears, and Brian, you have Tony Pollard on your list. And so, talk to me, Brian. We'll start with you. Tony Pollard over Tajay Spears. What's your thoughts on the Tennessee running back situation?
So, I like the Tennessee running back situation. Pollard is a guy that cannot be a running back one and be a bell cow back, but we have seen when he's in a running back like committee, like he had when he was splitting time with Zeke in Dallas, he's a really explosive running back. That's why, he's low on my list, but that's why I have him on the list over Tajay Spears. I think he can kind of be like the 55, 45 guy and be a really nice bench piece for you or flex position if you need it week in and week out.
Like it. All right, Kevin, your thoughts. You got Tajay Spears at 25. Your thoughts on him?
Well, the thing that I have is I agree with you, Brian, that he is a great compliment back, but it seems to me like Tennessee is wanting to make him the primary back. And so that's where I have a huge issue with this. And if they make him he doesn't have the build or any of, we've seen that where last year's in Dallas where he was supposed to be the primary running back, he got ground into the ground. Okay, so if they tried to make him the primary running back, I don't like that situation at all. And so I think Spears is going to be able to take advantage of that. And I have these guys, both of these guys that we have ranked are down here in the bottom 20s because I'm not a big believer in either
29.
one of them.
I don't know where you had Spears, but I had Pollard at 29.
They're at 25 and 29, so both of them lower.
Yeah, so they're not going to be on either of our dynasty teams. I think we're safe to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't like him as the number one guy. A huge problem. But I think Tennessee's going to try and do that with him, and it's not going to work.
I like it. All right. Well, that's the program today, gentlemen. Great episode number 2. We're going to continue to bring this content every week, every Tuesday night, right here. You can follow Belly Up Fantasy Sports on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram as well, actually. It's all there. And then on the website, bellyupsports.com, you click on football, it'll drop down. You click on fantasy football and all kinds of articles there. We'll have our redraft rankings coming out very soon as well on there. Kevin, tell everybody about the content you got going on this week and where they can find you at.
They can always find me on Twitter at Kevin62 WILSEA. You can contact me over there. You can ask me any questions and any kind of sports, any kind of fantasy. And you can always find you and I on the Belly Up Fantasy Baseball Show. We just did an episode yesterday. You're going to want to check that out before we get too much further in the week. So who do we add? So you definitely want to check that out. I have video clips up there on the YouTube page of who my MVPs in fantasy baseball are every single week. And there were some guys that took exception to my selections, which I will certainly discuss. Let me know if you disagree with my selection. But we have that. And every Saturday morning, I'm on the No Credentials Required show during the summer. I go on there and talk about baseball, and we always talk about other things. And it would have been interesting if I was on the show because Dustin is a Edmonton fan. This is a cat. We have to support all things cats here in this home. So we're Florida Panthers here, and we discussed that on the show. And so I'd like to hear what he had to say because they got blowed out yesterday.
Brutal.
Blowed out. But so tune in on Saturday mornings at 9 Central and check out what we have to say about that on that show. And there's where I am.
All right, Brian, let us know about 3rd and 10 and all the other stuff you got going on.
Yeah, so 3rd and 10, we had an episode that came out today. We talked about, like Chubb and Alexander. We did some Mets content, talked about Russell Wilson a little bit, and then we played Pickle. That's up on Belly Up's YouTube channel. You can find it after you watch this show. We have a show coming up Thursday, and we're going to be drafting we're going to make an NFL team based off just bust. So, like, quarterbacks like Jamarcus Russell, like, it's going to be fun. So you should definitely tune in.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah,
you got my interest right out of the gate on that one.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. So definitely tune into that. You can find me on Twitter at BrianPeachy1016. Find all my writing over there, or just listen to me celebrate the Mets as they win 5-4 in a walk-off victory tonight.
And once you guys are done doing that, all bus team, I'd like to hear your guys' take on the podcast crew, the Belly Up Busts over the years, put together the podcast crew there. That'll be a fun conversation. All right. Not that we've had any busts at Belly Up Sports.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
All right. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sports Stove. Listen, last night we did our fantasy baseball show and we brought on an amazing guest.
That's right.
Ron Franklin Jr. came on, plays for the Firefighters in Banana Ball, and truly insightful. I learned so much about Banana Ball, and I was intrigued. He talked about if an MLB team called him, and he just graduated last year from EKU, ends up playing there. He had to try out for the Tigers, but ends up playing in the Banana Ball. And he said if an MLB team called him right now, he would say no. And he talks about why, and it is a really, really fun interview. It's at the 15-minute mark in the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball show. So go check that out on Belly Up Sports YouTube or on the podcast, Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball podcast as well. This show is also available on podcast. So if you like listening rather than watching these beautiful faces, you can look it up on anywhere you get your podcast, Belly Up Fantasy Live Football, and it is there for you as well. And then Thursday night, me and my dad will go live at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the Sports Stove Facebook page. And then later it'll be available on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel for the Sports Stove football show. We're previewing college football conferences. We've done the ACC and we've done the Big 12. And this week we're doing the Big 10. So tune into that. catch it as well on the podcast version, the Sports Stove Football Show. It's available there as well. So we'll be back next week. We're going to continue to roll through these Dynasty things. It's amazing how fast the summer is already moving. It won't be long, and we'll be drafting. So it's going to be a good time for sure from there. If you watched anywhere today, give us that thumbs up, or if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on the audio version, subscribe to the podcast or however it works, whatever you're listening to, all that good stuff too. But we sure appreciate you tuning in for sure to the Belly Up Fantasy Life Football Show, and have yourself a wonderful, wonderful week. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.